Yeah, it's really interesting because that feeling I think is of, winning. It gives you so much, I don't know. So like when I was 17 to, I don't know, 21 or something, 23 years old, I would just race around Austin, had that high all the time. That was just what I did. And then kind of went into this period of and don't really love this that much. Started racing a lot more competitive, got creamed, COVID hit, then my husband had gotten cancer, and so took a big step back from all of that. And one the internal motivation was kind of okay, we're doing this for a different reason, and more just okay, this brings me happiness, so I like how I feel doing this and everything. But more just I think internally it's more about self growth and self-worth. I if I get up and run, no one else needs to know about it. I don't need the applaud of everyone else, which is hard. When you grow up your whole life and you're always getting applauded by doing well in sport, you're kind of well, can I just exist? And that be okay? And so yeah, I think it's more finding that internal motivation and happiness of just I do it way more just than to race and do well, to have lifestyle, to push myself every day. To me it's it sets up so much more, and yeah, than just going out and winning a race.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about that? Because you mentioned growing up, there was a lot of validation around doing well in sports.
Yeah.
Was there a period where that went away, or what was the process of going from that to adulthood?
For sure. Yeah. It's fascinating because for me it was you do well, your parents are very happy, right? And I know my parents love me versus if I do well or not, but as a kid you're oh no, I did well, you get more praise and everything. So I think it was definitely really hard because it's okay, well, now you're not getting necessarily the praise from, and especially in Austin, even though at the time it was a smaller triathlon community, but it's you go to these local races and you're winning and you feel so great about yourself. And then you go to the college scene and you're oh my God, this is a completely different ball game. And I think it was a huge wake-up call for me. It was definitely really tough. I would say took many years of just trying to find that inner confidence of I don't need sport to be loved or be worthy or be any of that. That's a byproduct of it all. But it definitely is a huge learning curve. And I see it so much in younger people who are coming even out of college and trying to separate that worth of winning in their sport to who they are out of that. And I think that one of the biggest identity crisis that people go through, because it's your whole life is that sport and that time. So it's definitely it's challenging, but I think for me, I went through this whole hobby phase of and I talk a lot about this with the younger guys on our team, because usually as a triathlete or an athlete, all you do is your sport, and work, but mostly your sport. And someone was what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? I was I don't know. I don't have any hobbies. And so I think, trying to find, even if it's small things that just, are entertaining to you, that aren't your worth isn't tied to that. You just do it for pure fun. Yeah. But it's definitely a tough transition.
Yeah. I struggle with that hobby thing as well. Because like I've done jujitsu in the past.
Oh, cool.
And then more recently, I haven't been training as regularly.
Mm-hmm.
But I get this like feeling every time I'm in there where I'm like, I need to be getting better. Like I need to do this as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then I have to be like, wait a second. Like
it's okay just to do it.
Maybe I can just do it. And
exactly.
Do it as much as I feel like doing.
Yeah. And that was my like a thing for me because like I am either like driven by money or for like winning, like competitive, like, and I was like, okay, like, I was like, my hobby is going to be building like a side business of this and that. And they're like, no, but that's like competitive and money like oriented. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll garden and sit here and watch something grow. But it's good. Like I think that's important because like that's truly like a lot more happiness comes from that. Mm-hmm. So
has that been your hobby?
One of them. My in-laws, they're from Minnesota, and so it's really cool because they have like very seasonal hobbies. So like in the summer, they like garden and stuff, but then in the winter, like they'll like there's so many hobbies. I feel like because in Texas, it's just kind of the same weather year round, so you're just kind of like, whatever. So I told them about this hobby thing, and they're like getting me gear for fly fishing, so like trying that. I like have a garden now, like painting, sketching, just like random things that again is so weird to me to do something where you're like, okay, I'm not getting paid for this, I'm not trying to get first in this, like I'm just doing it. But it's really like relaxing and like I think good to have, like makes more of a whole being.
Yeah. Like having something that is just like encapsulated in itself. It's like I'm just doing this right now because I want to do it.
Yeah. It's like when you're a kid. Like I think that's the funny thing. Like when you're a kid, you just do it because it's fun. Like there's no really like deeper purpose behind it. You're just doing it. And then you get older and you're like, oh no, that's a waste of time. Like, how dare you? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's nice to go back to that.
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's because I struggle to. Yeah, I feel like everything has to have some like long-term value
for sure
to it.
Well, and I think that's kind of like a huge issue of our society. And I think it's like everyone these days is like, go, 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 like push, make more money. You have X amount of time, like go all in, right? Like whatever it takes. And yeah, that's great, but that's not sustainable. Like I've seen so many people like, and usually in triathlon, that's what happens is people come in their first year, they're so excited. Like they are just like going ham and watching all the videos, buying all the stuff. And then a year later, they're like, I'm so burnt out, I'm done. So it's like, okay, let's like, pace ourselves a little bit. Yeah.
So how do you balance that with like, let's say destructive habits? Because I could, I could enjoy myself scrolling through Instagram all day or like watching YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So how do you do things for fun, but not in a destructive way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll set like time things. Like I'll like, so like right now we're painting like one of our rooms, and like to me that's really fun, like just free painting. But I'm like, okay, at X time we're done. Like we're stopping this. Like we're, because like you give yourself that time, like it's, but then you kind of just like, okay, cut it off. So for me, it's more just like, I guess that's time management, but like just allowing that. But I feel like a lot of times it's more you have to force and cut that time out of your day. It's kind of like reading before you go to bed. Like it's so much easier to scroll and scroll and scroll. But if you're like, okay, no, I'm going to read for this hour instead of scroll for this hour, like that's my cutoff. Like that's my cutout time period of the day. So I think it's just more being like intentional with your day, because it's so easy to let something like that like become destructive, like my husband has crazy ADHD, and so he'll literally just like, I'm like, okay, you've sent me 20 reels, like, come on, move on, like, we got to do something now. So like, I think it's setting those like, okay, you have 10 minutes to scroll now, stop. Like, so that's what, I don't know, helps